I'm streaming. I think I'm up. Is it there? Who's there? Is anybody there? Is everybody watching Logan conquer Bohemia? Hello, Eva. Ryumi is here. How we doing? Luke just finished streaming too. Oh my goodness, it's a busy Saturday. Guess everyone's at it. Yeah, everybody's at the streaming thing. Let's see if I can move this a little closer. Here we go. How's that? Yeah, people rolling in. Bubonic, Jade. Jade's here. Sana. Nice, Gray. Oh, hello. First time chat. GH Kyak J. How do I say that? GH Kwai. GH Kwai. Kwai. Hello, Ziggy Wiggy Stardust. You have a nice evening too. Bublina. Perfect bedtime. I'm going to pass out. It's 2:40 a.m. Oh. How are you cooking 2 soups a day, and Michael, who eats all that? Me. Coctelius, we are reading. Yes, we're reading. Hello, Lila's Prince. Sia Radish, hello. Royal Blue Heart. Oh, I forget. Sorry, I'm such a green. Yeah, not cooking, are we? We're doing bedtime stories. Thank you. Bedtime. Mango.
Mango %. What? Percent?
Well, they'll want to see him probably. Come here. I got past the dog. Go away, I've asked. Sniffing at the oranges. You can't have oranges, mate.
No, can't have oranges.
Edgar Allen. Oh. Just chatting, isn't it? Just chatting.
Mango's hair looks so soft.
It's
because he got a bath.
It does. It feels soft and not stinky.
Because I use my conditioner on his hair.
We got a choo-choo again. Hang on. Oh, that's 6 hours ago. What? Ah. Wriggly beast.
He's licking your book.
He's licking my. Is that a euphemism? What's going on? Oh God. Sorry. Where's chat? Here's chat. Hey chat. There you are.
You were born for
the mango. Who eat the mango? Yeah. Nice minty 94 pill. Mango. Timmerman represented, yeah. Feeling less sick? I'm feeling a little less sick, although I have to say it's just very. I'm tired. I tire very quickly, which is kind of tedious. You can go, Dad. Mango's our streamer. Thank you. Thank you, Puplina, for the trust again. Michael is always sick. Yeah, what's up? You know that Cactadius. Like, I'm totally on it. Will Mango be reading for us today? Yes, he's going to be reading Spot the Dog on his adventures. Never mind, ruined it all. Bedtime stories will put Dadzig to sleep, dude. I don't know. Can you hear his sniffling? Is that doggy ASMR? He can read. He's got very basic reading level though. We don't let him do anything too complicated. He tried Joyce last year. Didn't work out so well. All right. Where are we at? So he is interested actually. Can't let the dog outsmart me. Yeah, you're quite right. Cheek. I didn't say anything. Let Mango read Don Quixote. Oh, Don Quixote is probably out of copyright as well, isn't it?
I have it.
We need to make sure that that particular print is allowed though. That's the problem. He reads better than you. You're shy to admit it, admire it, I bet. Thanks, Draconi Manoveri. You're quite right. He's got a very nice haircut. What's his haircare routine? Same as Logan's, so once you figure that out, you'll know what Mango does.
Mango's haircut involves a lot of hate towards me.
Yeah, he doesn't like being washed. So, guys, what are we going to do? We're going to read a little bit of Edgar Allan Poe, aren't we? You sound crisp, less crisp than usual, like it's on a secondary mic. Ah, it's on the laptop, that's why. I've done that again. Settings, audio, array synaptics. Ah, there we are. I apologize. I thought I pressed the right one and I had not. Now we should put this microphone. Is that better? Switch your mic on. Is that okay? Is the ASMR much better for you now? Now you can hear the mango tippity uppies. Yes. So let's carry on with that a little bit for now. We're going to read some Edgar Allan Poe. And that's because I'm whispering. You can watch Logan conquer Bohemia while I read you Edgar Allan Poe, or vice versa. You could listen to him while you watch me reading. Is that okay, guys? How's the volume now? Tibbity tap tap, looking for food. Please throw me in the dungeons. Okay. I know he's tap dancing again. He's mastered the 3 tap, that one, whatever that's called. Yeah. We'll just be moving the mic closer. That's what we'll be doing. Like this. There we go. We don't need to turn it up. We just move our microphone a little closer. How's that, everybody? Is that much better? I'm not talking full voice either. Your sound is very, very low. Why is that very, very low? Shouldn't be.
Try now.
This is the same setting that we had it on for the 4 of us did it last Saturday, so I don't see why this should be any lower. Is that better? You've got your sound at 80 and it's still very low. Oh, hang on a second. What if I just turn this up here? Is that any better? Project Gutenberg is free to use Don Quixote publication. Oh, really? There we go. A tiny bit. How about now? Bit better? That's better. I just turned up the gain on it. It's all right. Def better. Okay. I'm not a sound technician. This is all new to me. I'm learning. Nice and crisp. Thank you, Mahogany. Why don't we start with a poem? That mic is Peaky Blinder, innit? What if we? There aren't so many poems already. The Bells. We haven't read The Bells. Or did we read The Bells? No, we couldn't have done. You would know, Sally. I don't even see. Oh, The Bells. 954. Poczekaj. That's a play. What the hell? There's a play in here mixed in. What? In the poems. Scenes from Politian, unpublished drama. Well, I should KK. Didn't know that. Right at the back of it. What I say? 954. 954. The Bells. We are still looking for emotes, yeah. Chuck some in. Oh, thank you. Nice. I must say, by the way, for Alison, Bernadine Hat, and Jade of Trotsky for your generosity earlier today. Okay. How long is The Bells? Not so long. Okay, we're going to read The Bells. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their medley foretells. How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme, to the tintinnupulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells, what a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight, from the molten golden notes, and all in tune with the liquid ditty floats, to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from that outsounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells. How it swells, how it dwells on the fortune, how it tells of the rapture that impels, to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells. Hear the loud alarm bells, brazen bells, what a tale of terror now their turbulency tells, in the startled ear of night, how they scream out of their affright. Too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek, shriek out of tune, in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire and a resolute endeavour. Now to sit or never by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, 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 what a tale their terror tells of despair. How they clang and clash and roar, what a horror they outpour on the bosom of the palpitating air. Yet the ear it fully knows by the twanging and the clanging, how the danger ebbs and flows, yet the ear distinctly tells in the jangling and the wrangling, how the danger sinks and swells by the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells, of the bells, of the bells, 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 in the clamour and the clangour of the bells. Hear the tolling of the bells, iron bells, what a world of solemn thought their melody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy menace of their tone. For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan. And the people, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple all alone, and who tolling, tolling, tolling in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart a stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human. They are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, rolls, rolls. Rolls a paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells, and he dances and he yells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time, 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 as he knells, 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 in a happy runic rhyme to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells. Poe. I got Poe in different area codes. Well, what about that then? Bosom. We got 2 bosoms in tonight already. Actually, Barbarian. Did you get the second one as well? We got 2 bosoms. That's a good start tonight. Where are we at on the bosom counter? Yeah, I don't think we read it. No, 2 tonight, but we should have a counter from before. I think we were on 30 something. 24. We're on 24 now. All right, cool. Why don't we read another short poem, and then we'll pop on to one of the stories. You have a question, Michael. If a man, say, lost 2 civil wars, won another one, and kept losing land in civil wars and titles, what would your advice be? This person may or may not be in 1200s Hungary. 2 civil wars, won another, and kept losing. So, are they secure in their title at the minute? It may or may not be Logan. Yeah, I know. They are not Logan. Okay, cool. What would you do? Kept losing. Whoa, that's tricky. I'd try and make some alliances, I guess, and also create some revenue to build back up an army. But it's difficult if you keep losing titles. Yeah, they are not secure. I'm as much as crusading is important. It's important that you do it from a position of power, isn't it? So if right now it's a little uncertain, rocky underfoot, maybe a consolidation of where you're at. Start ziggling exactly and make money. Push for it, Rest one generation, push the next. Anyway, we're going to read an enigma. Seldom we find, says Solomon Don Dunce, half an idea in the profoundest sonnet. Through all the flimsy things we see at once, as easily as through a Naples bonnet. Trash of all trash, how can a lady don it? Yet heavier far than your Petrarchan stuff, owl downy nonsense that the faintest puff twirls into trunk paper the while you con it. And veritably, Sol is right enough. The general Tucker manatees are arrant, bubbles, ephemeral and so transparent. But this is now, you may depend upon it, stable, opaque, immortal, all by dint of the dear names that lie concealed within it. Oh, well, we got a puzzle poem. Got one. Oh my goodness. I know. Apparently, there's a name in this. SHTAT. Well, that's shat. Yacht at. No, okay, so it's not the first letter of each word. SAR. 1, 2, 3. Sarah. Sarah. Okay. I guess it's the consecutive letters for each line again, is it? So we got Sarah. SARA. Sarah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. AW. Ors. Oh, I don't know. I can't be asked. Sarah. Yeah, but it's Sarah with an H. So I think it's Sarah rather than Sarah. Sarah. All right. If anybody who knows that, how smart that can work that out, then we can do it. But we're not doing it now. Can't be bothered. Can't be bothered. The solution will be a name. Yeah, Sarah somebody. I'm guessing. All right, dears. What have we got? Does anybody have a request for a little bit of poetry? Morella. Morella. It's only 5 pages long. It's a shorty. Sarah Anna Lewis. Thank you, Alison. Did you know that or did you look it up? Would I read the Boots poem one day? Yes. I'll read all of them one day, I guess. Is it in here? The Boots. I don't see the Boots. Sleeper, Dreamland, Zante, The Boots. Is it one of his is it one of the ones from when he was younger? I don't see The Boots. You know all the Poe puzzles. Oh, it's not from Poe. Who wrote it? Yeah, I did that, Ryumi, and that's why I got Sarah Ann something, but then I gave up because I just couldn't be asked. I didn't have a pencil, otherwise I would circle the letters. Rudyard Kipling. Ooh. He might still be in copyright, I think. Otherwise, we would. Okay. For the stories, we've got one suggestion already, which is the Morella. Is any others? Because Morella's only 5 pages. Yes, he might be. He might be out of copyright, but I don't know. It depends on when it was published and which publication. Hello, Imori Theory. What are we going to do? Howl. That's that's in here, is it? Howl. Hang on, is Howl by Poe? I'm such a... Yeah, we've done the Raven already. 40s. Is Howl in is Poe? I don't... Who wrote Howl? Hello, Nad's Drawers. Logan 5 ran his raiding with a party of 71. We're being raided! Well, we'll read it again at some point, Jade. Don't be disappointed. There's another detective story. Which one? What? We're being raided. Ah, Mishi. Ah, bang. Thank you, Logan. Way. Hello, Public Universal. How you doing? Hello, Murder Vesper. Oh, leave Mama in here. Come on, Deadby. Yeah, Ginzo, I don't know. Hey, Valeria, finally here. Valeria, we were wondering how many bosoms we're on. When you have a moment to check that, that'd be great. Logan running away for the mum dumps the kids on dad and just leaves. 20. Only 20. Okay, well, we've got 2 more in tonight already, just in one poem. So that means we're up to 22 then, I guess. Mum's been through a lot today. So has Dad. Okay. He killed you twice in Crusader Kings. Twice. He killed you or you were killed accidentally? He put us in a train and sent us here. It took a while. Choo, choo. Bosom 22. Thank you. Updated. Murder in the Rue Morgue is another detective story. I see. Tell us about your day. Well, I cooked some soup, Imogen. And a couple of bublin I cooked along. It looked pretty good. Result. The dog is in the next room right now. Sorry, later. Now he's being nicely quiet. Yeah. Where was I? Oh, my day. Yeah. No, I don't know. I've had a bit of a funky week, so my whole weekend has been tossed up in the air, which is kind of sucks. But we're on the stream, so that's good. Have we read the heart one? Yes, we have read that as well. Oh, nice little sharp, thank you. Anonymous sub. I was asleep for soup. That's okay, don't worry, it'll be up on YouTubeage. Thank you, CEO. Ooh, cool. You have such a bad memory. Well, okay. You gotta run, Dead Plant. Alright, maybe next time. Ciao. Hey, yowie. 6 a.m. I'm ready for my bedtime story. Yay. Good night. I'm still recovering from my confusing train. Yeah, what is that? Okay, you don't want to ask about the cigarettes because I've got a pack here ready to smoke. Oh, never mind. I know nothing but lurking. The soup looked great, didn't it? Okay, Judge D got a new name. Nice. Did you hear what Logan did? Logan, what happened? What happened? What did he do this time? What happened? What happened in Logan's? What the hell? We got a hype train? Really? Level 1. I don't know how to unlock these goddamn. What the? All right, somebody tell me here how I can unlock this. How do I unlock the emotes, guys? I don't know how this works. I'm still confused again. The emotes are for the viewers. I can't. Oh, I see. Thank you, Ruder Spears. I see. Okay, so I'm not sure why I can see anything. All right, we'll get there. You can access them. Hooray, hooray. It's automatic, Papa. Thank you, Barbarian. Keta Dangler. It's capitalism in practice. Girl. Okay. Look at that. Thank you, Grey Warden. Oh my god. Amazing. No emotes for Dadzig. We'll get back to what Mama did in a moment because this is all. We're on the train at the minute. Okay, hype train level 4. We're riding it. Oh my goodness, I fell asleep after bedtime stories even started. Oh, prickly triangle. That's okay. If you're tired, you need to sleep. Don't you? If you're tired, you need to sleep. Okay. Woo! You want to finish your 1,000-piece jigsaw tonight, Halibut? Fair play. What's the picture on the thingy? Naps are important. Yeah, don't knock a nap. Don't feel guilty about napping either. Some people guilt trip you into that shit. My grandparents napped every day after lunch, pretty much every day. And why not? If it's 15 minutes, 40 minutes, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to do that. Picture of one of those little trains you ride in a circling. Oh, I love those. I took a nap after the cooking stream before. Yes, there we go. Siesta gang. It's Brambly. Hey, I should save your soup recipes. Yes, you can save the soup recipes, and okay, that sounds sensible, Keta. You need to get the old circulation going again. Dream your dreams. Don't forget to nap. Got to dream exactly. We're on a level 4 hype train today. I don't even. It's okay. What else? Does anybody find that if you nap too long and at the wrong time of day, that is counterproductive? Like anything after 4-5 o'clock can be danger territory now. And I'll normally go for a 20-25 minute, maybe 30 at a push. Never trust a nap. Why not? It ruins your day completely. It can do if you have it at the wrong time. 1.5 hours is still a nap. Actually, 90 minutes is a good amount of time. I believe that's a cycle with the old. It's not for everybody, Bianco. We can't all have a. There we go, Alison. That's it. You have to set the timer, and you have to be able to drift off quickly. Sometimes you wake up good, and sometimes cooked in that exactly. That's a good question, Jade. I don't know. I would say yes, but I can help. I can drift off quite quickly sometimes. Sometimes I don't even nap. I just lie there. That's also good enough. Just close your eyes. Oh wow, do go. That sounds like a. I've not had 4 a.m. ones, but I've been similar. You need an hour to pass out. Really? Okay. Dadzig is always napping in KCD while they cast well, didn't they? Long nap during summer will have you going to the default settings, forget your name and everything. That's true. Yeah. Maybe just a bit of music. Just lie there. Sometimes just try and switch off. Do some, mental exercises. That's it. All right. Should we do some reading then? I guess we should get some reading done. And we're going to read Morella, which is on page 667. Heading towards the back of the book. The Quacks of Helicon. 667. Ligeia. Here we go. Or Ligeia. Careful what you say, Sierra Radish. Careful what you say. All right. Oh, all right. Well, there's some Greek here, which is not going to happen. I'll read the English translation underneath it. That's very helpful. Marella, itself by itself solely, one everlastingly and single. With a feeling of deep yet most singular affection, I regarded my friend Marella. Thrown by accident into her society many years ago, my soul from our first meeting burned with fires it had never known before. But the fires were not of eros, and bitter and tormenting to my spirit was the gradual conviction that I could in no manner define their unusual meaning or regulate their vague intensity. Yet we met, and fate bound us together at the altar. I never spoke of passion nor thought of love. She, however, shunned society, and attaching herself to me alone rendered me happy. It is a happiness to wonder, it is a happiness to dream. Morella's erudition was profound. As I hoped to live, her talents were of no common order. Her powers of mind were gigantic. I felt this, and in many matters became her pupil. I soon, however, found that perhaps on account of her Pressburg education, she placed before me a number of those mystical writings which are usually considered the mere dross of the early German literature. These, for what reason I could not imagine, were her favourite and constant study, and that, in process of time, they became my own, should be attributed to the simple but effectual influence of habit and example. In all this, if I err not, my reason had little to do. My convictions, or I forget myself, were in no manner acted upon by the ideal, nor was any tincture of the mysticism which I read to be discovered, unless I am greatly mistaken, either in my deeds or in my thoughts. Persuaded of this, I abandoned myself implicitly to the guidance of my wife, and entered with an unflinching heart into the intricacies of her studies. And then, when poring over forbidden pages, I felt a forbidden spirit enkindling within me, would Marella place her cold hand upon mine, and rake up from the ashes of dead philosophy some low, singular words whose strange meaning burned themselves in upon my memory. And then, hour after hour, would I linger by her side and dwell upon the music of her voice until, at length, its melody was tainted with terror, and there fell a shadow upon my soul, and I grew pale, and shuddered inwardly at those two unearthly tones. And thus joy suddenly faded into horror, and the most beautiful became the most hideous, as Hinnom became Gehenna. It is unnecessary to state the exact character of those disquisitions, which, growing out of the volumes I have mentioned, formed for so long a time almost the sole conversation of Marella and myself. By the learned in what might be termed theological morality they will be readily conceived, and by the unlearned they would, at all events, be a little understood. The wild pantheism of Fichte, the modified something of Pythagoreans, and above all the doctrines of identity as urged by Schelling, were generally the points of discussion presenting the most of beauty to the imaginative Marella. That identity which is termed personal, Mr. Locke, I think, truly defines to consist in the saneness of a rational being. And since by person we understand an intelligent essence having reason, and since there is a consciousness which always accompanies thinking, it is this which makes us all to be that which we call ourselves, thereby distinguishing us from other beings that think and giving us our personal identity. But the principium individuationis, the notion of that identity which at death is or is not lost forever, was to me at all times a consideration of intense interest, not more from the perplexing and exciting nature of its consequences than from the marked and agitated manner in which Marella mentioned them. But indeed the time had now arrived when the mystery of my wife's manner impressed me as a spell. I could no longer bear the touch of her wan fingers, nor the low tone of her musical language, nor the lustre of her melancholy eyes, and she knew all this, but did not upbraid. She seemed conscious of my weakness or my folly, and smiling called it fate. She seemed also conscious of a cause to me unknown for the gradual alienation of my regard, but she gave me no hint or token of its nature. Yet was she woman, and pined away daily. In time the crimson spot settled steadily upon the cheek, and the blue veins upon the pale forehead became prominent, and one instant my nature melted into pity, but in the next I met the glance of her meaning eyes, and then my soul sickened and became giddy with the giddiness of one who gazes downward into some dreary and unfathomable abyss. Shall I then say that I longed with an earnest consuming desire for the moment of Morella's decease? I did. But the fragile spirit clung to its tenement of clay for many days, for many weeks and irksome months, until my tortured nerves obtained the mastery over my mind, and I grew furious through delay, and with the heart of a fiend cursed the days and the hours, and the bitter moments which seemed to lengthen and lengthen her gentle life declined, like shadows in the dying of the day. But one autumnal evening, when the winds lay still in heaven, Morella called me to her bedside. There was a dim mist over all the earth, and the warm glow upon the waters, and amid the rich October leaves of the forest, a rainbow from the firmament had surely fallen. "It is a day of days," she said, as I approached. "A day of all days, either to live or die. It is a fair day for the sons of earth and life, more fair for the daughters of heaven and death." I kissed her forehead, and she continued, "I am dying, yet shall I live. Morella, the days have never been when thou couldst love me, but her whom in life thou didst abhor, in death thou shalt adore. Morella, I repeat that I am dying, but within me is a pledge of that affection, oh, how little, which thou didst feel for me, Morella. And when my spirit departs, shall the child live, thy child and mine, Morella's. But thy days shall be days of sorrow, that sorrow which is the most lasting of impressions, as the cypress is the most enduring of trees. For the hours of thy happiness are over, and joy is not gathered twice in life, as the roses of Paestum twice in a year. Thou shalt no longer then play the Teian with time, but being ignorant of the myrtle and the vine, thou shalt bear upon thee thy shroud on the earth, as do the Muslimin at Mecca." "Morella," I cried, "Morella, how knowest thou this?" But she turned her face upon the pillow, and a slight tremor coming over her limbs, she thus died, and I heard her voice no more. Yet, as she had foretold, her child, to which in dying she had given birth, which breathed not until the mother breathed no more, her child, a daughter, lived, and she grew strangely in stature and intellect, and was the perfect resemblance of her who had departed. And I loved her with a love more fervent than I had believed it possible to feel for any denizen of earth. But ere long, the heaven of this pure affection became darkened, and gloom and horror and grief swept over it in the clouds. I said the child grew strangely in stature and intelligence. Strange indeed was her rapid increase in bodily size, but terrible were the tumultuous thoughts which crowded upon me while watching the development of her mental being. Could it be otherwise when I daily discovered in the conceptions of the child the adult powers and faculties of the woman? When the lessons of experience fell from the lips of infancy, and when the wisdom or the passions of maturity are found hourly gleaming from its full and speculative eye? When I say all this became evident to my appalled senses, when I could no longer hide it from my soul, nor throw it off from those perceptions which trembled to receive it. Is it to be wondered at that suspicious of a nature fearful and exciting crept in upon my spirits, or that my thoughts fell back aghast upon the wild tales and thrilling theories of the entombed Morella? I snatched from the scrutiny of the world a being whom destiny compelled me to adore, and in the rigorous seclusions of my home watched with an agonizing anxiety over all which concerned the beloved. And as years rolled away, and I gazed day after day upon her holy and mild and eloquent face, and poring over her maturing form day after day, did I discover new points of resemblance in the child to her mother, the melancholy and the dead. And hourly grew darker these shadows of similitude, and more full and more definite and more perplexing and more hideously terrible in their aspect. For that her smile was like her mother's I could bear. But then I shuddered at its too perfect identity. That her eyes were like Morella's I could endure, but then they too often looked down into the depths of my soul with Morella's own intense and bewildering meaning. And in the contour of the high forehead, and in the ringlets of the silken hair, and in the wan fingers which bury themselves therein, and in the sad musical tones of her speech, and above all, in the phrases and expressions of the dead on the lips of the loved and the living, I found food for consuming thought and horror for a worm that would not die. Thus passed away 2 lustra of her life, and as yet my daughter remained nameless upon the earth. My child, and my love were the designations usually prompted by a father's affection, and the rigid seclusion of her days precluded all other intercourse. Morella's name died with her at her death. Of the mother I had never spoken to the daughter. It was impossible to speak. Indeed, during the brief period of her existence, the latter had received no impressions from the outer world, save such as might have been afforded by the narrow limits of her privacy. But at length the ceremony of baptism presented to my mind, in its unnerved and agitated condition, a present deliverance from the terrors of my destiny. At the baptismal font I hesitated for a name, and many titles of the wise and beautiful, of old and modern times, of my own and foreign lands, came thronging to my lips, with many, many fair titles of the gentle and the happy and the good. What prompted me then to disturb the memory of the buried dead? What demon urged me to breathe that sound which in its very recollection was wont to make ebb the purple blood in torrents from the temples of the heart? What fiend spoke from the recesses of my soul when, amid those dim aisles and in the silence of the nights, I whispered within the ears of the holy man the syllables, Morella? What more than fiend convulsed the features of my child and overspread them with the hues of death, starting at that scarcely audible sound? She turned her glassy eyes from earth to heaven, and, falling prostrate on the black slabs of our ancestral vault, responded, I am here. Distinct, coldly, calmly distinct fell those few simple sounds within my ear, and thence, like molten lead, rolled hissingly into my brain. Years may pass away, but the memory of that epoch never. Nor was I indeed ignorant of the flowers and the vine, but the hemlock and the cypress overshadowed me night and day, and I kept no reckoning of time or place, and the stars of my fate faded from heaven, and therefore the earth grew dark, and its figure passed by me like flitting shadows, and among them all I beheld only Morella. The winds of the firmament breathed but one sound within my ears, and the ripples upon the sea murmured evermore, Morella. And she died, and with my own hands I bore her to the tomb, and I laughed with a long and bitter laugh as I found no traces of the first in the charnel where I laid the second Morella. No bosoms, Valeria. Yeah, it's dark, Bianco. It's very creepy. Depression maxing. Yay! Edgar Allan Poe. Oh my god. I wanted to be depressed, so I read some Poe. Well. Yeah, well, we're not reading the Rue Morgue. Excuse-moi. Tonight, though, are we? So, French maxing. Okay, so what happened with Logan then? Did he lose the Empire again? Was there more civil wars? What happened? I know he did a good job getting the Empire back the other day. He lost Nicopolis. But why? I thought he'd made a treaty with the Byzantines. Oh, no. Moldavia happened. What the hell happened with the Moldavians? He'll get it back. Don't worry. Nicopolis and Bohemia will be held. I mean, to be fair, though, the Balkans is like... Man, you're right in the thick of it there. He gave it away. Lots of surrendering. Oh, well, they probably had good reason to then. Many skill issues. Yeah, that sounds about right. Moldavia surged. Dude. Ah, that sucks. Didn't really have a choice. There we go. Thank you, Jade. To be fair, I mean, he when I was there last, he lost everything, and I'm not sure if that wasn't partly my fault, but it's law, building strength through struggle. Yes, absolutely. Never underestimate Lokester's capacity for sudden catastrophe. What's up? Oh, I love that. All right. Should we just do a random flicking through the pages and see where we land, and we'll read that story? What do we think? Thumbs up for that? I'm going to start from the back. Unless it's too long. I'm not reading a long one. Oh my god, Gordon Pym. That's a very long story. Well, we're not doing Gordon Pym. How many pages does page 394? How many pages does William Wilson have? All right, let's check that out, and then we'll check page 394. William Wilson, ja. Where are you, Willie? William Wilson. 13, 16 pages, maybe a bit long for tonight. Can we put that in the back burner? For next time. It's 16 pages. That's too long for tonight. Sorry, guys. 394, wasn't it? Let us have a look. 394. Oh, da-ba-da-ba-da. Loss of breath. Sorry, Melonta Tauta. Melonta Tauta. Hang on. Yeah. Do we know what Melonta Tauta is? Not a clue. Let me have a look. It's something to do. It looks. Melonta Tauta on board balloon Skylark, April 1st, 2080-48. It's a letter. Should we give it a go? Alison, what do you think? Is it worth reading? I guess so, because it's set in the year 2848. Okay, let's just go for it. Who knows? You never know. Female protagonist. Thank you, Ziggy Wiggy. Whoop whoop woo. Okay. Now, my dear friend, now for your sins you are to suffer the infliction of a long gossiping letter. I tell you distinctly that I am going to punish you for all your impertinences by being as tedious, as discursive, as incoherent, and as unsatisfactory as possible. Besides, here I am, cooped up in a dirty balloon with 100 or 200 of the canaille, all bound on a pleasure excursion. What a funny idea some people have of pleasure. And I have no prospect of touching terra firma for a month at least. Nobody to talk to, nothing to do. When one has nothing to do, then is the time to correspond with one's friends. You perceive, then, why it is that I write you this letter. It is an account of my ennui and your sins. Get ready your spectacles and make up your mind to be annoyed. I mean to write at you every day during this odious voyage. Hey-ho, when will any invention visit the human pericranium? Are we forever to be doomed to the 1,000 inconveniences of the balloon? Will nobody contrive a more expeditious mode of progress? The jog-trot movement, to my thinking, is little less than positive torture. Upon my word, we have not made more than 100 miles the hour since leaving home. The very birds beat us, at least some of them. I assure you that I do not exaggerate at all. Our motion, no doubt, seems slower than it actually is. This is on account of our having no objects about us which to estimate our velocity, and on account of our going with the wind. To be sure, whenever we meet a balloon, we have a chance of perceiving our rate, and then I admit things do appear not so very bad. Accustomed as I am to this mode of travelling, I cannot get over a kind of giddiness whenever a balloon passes us in a current directly overhead. It always seems to me like an immense bird of prey about to pounce upon us and carry us off in its claws. One went over this morning about sunrise and so nearly overhead that its drag rope actually brushed the network suspending our car and caused us very serious apprehension. Our captain said that if the material of the bag had been the trumpery varnished silk of 500 or 1,000 years ago, we would inevitably have been damaged. This silk, as he explained to me, was a fabric composed of the entrails of a species of earthworm. The worm was carefully fed on mulberries, a kind of fruit resembling a watermelon, and when sufficiently fat, was crushed in a mill. The paste thus arising was called papyrus in its primary state, and went through a variety of processes until it finally became silk. Singular to relate, it was once much admired as an article of female dress. Balloons were also very generally constructed from it. A better kind of material, it appears, was subsequently found in the down surrounding the seed vessels of a plant vulgarly called euphorbium, and at that time botanically termed milkweed. This latter kind of silk was designated as silk Buckingham on account of its superior durability, and was usually prepared for use by being varnished with a solution of gum caoutchouc, a substance which in some respects must resemble the gutta-percha now in common use. This caoutchouc was occasionally called Indian rubber or rubber of twist, and was no doubt one of the numerous fungi. Never tell me again that I am not at heart an antiquarian. Talking of drag ropes, our own, it seems, has this moment knocked a man overboard from one of the small magnetic propellers that swarm in oceans below us, a boat of about 6,000 tons, and from all accounts shamefully crowded.
Those diminutive barks should be prohibited from carrying more than a definite number of passengers. The man, of course, was not permitted to get on board again and was soon out of sight. He had his life preserver. I rejoice, my dear friend, that we live in an age so enlightened that no such a thing as an individual is supposed to exist. It is the mass for which the true humanity cares. By the by, talking of humanity, do you know that our immortal Wiggins is not so original in his views of the social condition and so forth as his contemporaries are inclined to suppose? Pundit assures me that the same ideas were put out nearly in the same way about 1,000 years ago by an Irish philosopher called Fourier, on account of his keeping a retail shop for cat peltries and other furs. Pundit knows, you know. There can be no mistake about it. How very wonderfully do we see verified every day the profound observations of the Hindu Aries Tottle, as quoted by Pundit. Thus must we say that not once or twice or a few times, but with almost infinite repetitions, the same opinions come round in a circle among men. April 2nd. Spoke today the magnetic cutter in charge of the middle section of floating telegraph wires. I learned that when this species of telegraph was first put into operation by horse, it was considered quite impossible to convey the wires over sea, but now we are at a loss to comprehend where the difficulty lay. So wags the world. Tempora mutantor. Excuse me for quoting the Etruscan. What would we do without the Atlantic telegraph? Pundit says Atlantic was the ancient adjective. We lay to a few minutes to ask the cutter some questions and learned, among other glorious news, that civil war is raging in Africa, while the plague is doing its good work beautifully in both Europe and Asia. Is it not truly remarkable that before the magnificent light shed upon philosophy by humanity, the world was accustomed to regard war and pestilence as calamities? Do you know that prayers were actually offered up in the ancient temples to end these evils might not be visited upon mankind? Is it not really difficult to comprehend upon what principles of interest our forefathers acted? Were they so blind as not to perceive that the destruction of a myriad of individuals is only so much positive advantage to the mass? April 3rd. It is really a very fine amusement to ascend the rope ladder leading to the summit of the balloon bag, and then survey the surrounding world. From the car below, you know, the prospect is not so comprehensive. You can see little vertically, but seated here, where I write this, in the luxuriously cushioned open piazza of the summit, one can see everything that is going on in all directions. Just now, there is quite a crowd of balloons in sight, and they present a very animated appearance, while the air is resonant with the hum of so many millions of human voices. I have heard it asserted that when yellow, or Pundit will have it, violet, who is supposed to have been the first aeronaut, maintained the practicality of traversing the atmosphere in all directions, by merely ascending or descending until a favourable current was attained, he was scarcely hearkened to at all by his own contemporaries, who looked upon him as merely an indigenous sort of madman, because the philosophers of the day declared the thing impossible. Really now it does seem to me quite unaccountable how anything so obviously feasible could have escaped the sagacity of the ancient savants. But in all ages the great obstacles to advancement in art have been opposed by the so-called men of science. To be sure, our men of science are not quite so bigoted as those of old. Oh, I have something so queer to tell you on this topic. Do you know that it is not more than 1,000 years ago since the metaphysicians consented to relieve the people of the singular fancy that there existed but 2 possible roads for the attainment of truth? Believe it if you can. It appears that long, long ago, in the night of time, there lived a Turkish philosopher, or Hindu possibly, called Aries Tottle. This person introduced, or at all events propagated, what was termed the deductive or a priori mode of investigation. He started with what he maintained to be axioms or self-evident truths, and thence proceeded logically to results. His great disciples were one Euclid, one Kant, Well, Ares Tottle flourished supreme until advent of one Hogg, surnamed the Ettrick Shepherd, who preached an entirely different system which he called the a posteriori or inductive. His plan referred altogether to sensation. He proceeded by observing, analysing and classifying facts, instantiae naturae, as they were effectively called, into general laws. Ares Tottle's mode in a mode was based on noumena, Hogg's on phenomena. Well, as great was the admiration excited by this latter system that, at its first introduction, Ares Tottle fell into disrepute. But finally he recovered ground and was permitted to divide the realm of truth with his more modern rival. The savants now maintained that the Aristotelian and Baconian roads were the sole possible avenues to knowledge. Baconian, you must know, was an adjective invented as equivalent to the Hoggian and more euphonious and dignified. Now, my dear friend, I do assure you most positively that I represent this matter fairly on the soundest authority, and you can easily understand how a notion so absurd on its very face must have operated to retard the progress of all true knowledge, which makes its advances almost invariably by intuitive bounds. The ancient idea confined investigations to crawling, and for hundreds of years so great was the infatuation about Hogg especially, that a virtual end was put to all thinking, properly so called. No man dared utter a truth to which he felt himself indebted to his soul alone. It mattered not whether the truth was even demonstrably a truth, for the bullet-headed savants of the time regarded only the road by which he had attained it. They would not even look at the road. "Let us see the means," they cried, "the means." If upon investigation of the means it was found to come under neither the category of Ares, that is to say ram, nor under the category Hogg, why then the savants went no further, but pronounced the theorist a fool and would have nothing to do with him or his truth. Now, it cannot be maintained even that by the crawling system the greatest amount of truth would be attained in any long series of ages, for the repression of imagination was an evil not to be compensated for by any superior certainty in the ancient modes of investigation. The error of these Germains, these French, these English, and these Americans, the latter, by the way, were our own immediate progenitors, was an area quite analogous with that of the wiseacre, who fancies that he must necessarily see an object the better, more closely he holds it to his eyes. These people blind themselves by the details. When they proceeded hoggishly, their facts were by no means facts, a matter of little consequence, had it not been for assuming that they were facts, and must be facts because they appeared to be such. When they proceeded on the path of the ram, their course was scarcely as straight as a ram's horn, for they had never an axiom which was an axiom at all. They must have been very blind not to see this even in their day, for even in their own day many of the long-established axioms had been rejected. For example, ex nihilo nihil fit. A body cannot act where it is not. There cannot exist antipodes. Darkness cannot come out of light. All these and a dozen other similar propositions, formerly admitted without hesitation as axioms, were, even at the period of which I speak, seen to be untenable. How absurd in these people, then, to persist in putting faith in axioms so immutable places of truth. But, even out of the mouths of their soundest reasoners, it is very easy to demonstrate the futility, the infallibility of their axioms in general. Who was the soundest of their logicians? Let me see. I will go and ask Pundit and be back in a minute. Here we have it. Here is a book written nearly 1,000 years ago and lately translated into English, which, by the way, appears to have been the rudiment of the American. Pundit says it is decidedly the cleverest ancient work on its topic, logic. The author, who was much thought of in his day, was one Miller, or Mill, and we find it recorded of him, as a point of some importance, that he had a mill horse called Bentham. But let us glance at the treatise. Ability or inability to conceive, says Mr. Mill, very properly, is in no case to be received as a criterion of axiomatic truth. What modern in his senses would ever think of disputing this truism? The only wonder with us must be how it happened that Mr. Mill conceived it necessarily even to hint at anything being so obvious. So far, so good. But let us turn over another paper. What have we here? Contradictories cannot both be true, that is, cannot coexist in nature. Here Mr. Mill means that, for example, that a tree must be either a tree or not a tree, that it cannot be at the same time a tree and not a tree. Very well, but I ask him why. His reply is this, and never pretends to be anything else than this: because it is impossible to conceive that contradictions can be both true. Well, this is no answer at all by his own showing, for has he not just admitted as a truism that ability or inability to conceive is in no case to be received as a criterion of axiomatic truth? No, I do not complain of these ancients so much because of their logic is, by their own showing, utterly baseless, worthless, and fantastic altogether, as because of their pompous and imbecile prescriptions of all other roads of truth, of all other means for its attainment than the two preposterous paths, the one of creeping and the one of crawling, to which they have dared to define the soul that loves nothing so well as to soar. By the by, my dear friend, do you not think it would have puzzled these ancient dogmaticians to have determined by which of their two roads it was that the most important and most sublime of all their truths was, in effect, attained? I mean the truth of gravitation. Newton owed it to Kepler. Kepler admitted that his three laws were guessed at. These three laws of all laws which led the great English mathematicians to his principle, the basis of all physical principle, to go beyond which we must enter the kingdom of metaphysics, Kepler guessed, that is to say, imagined. He was essentially a theorist. That word now of so much sanctity, formerly an epithet of contempt. Would it not have puzzled these old moles, too, to have explained by which of the two roads a cryptographist unriddles a cryptograph of more than usual secrecy, or by which of the two roads Champollion directed mankind to those enduring and almost innumerable truths which resulted from his deciphering the hieroglyphics? One word more on this topic, and I will be done boring you. Is it not passing strange that, with their eternal prattling about roads to truth, these bigoted people missed what we now so clearly perceive to be the great highway, that of consistency? Does it not seem singular how they should have failed to deduce from the works of God the vital fact that a perfect consistency must be an absolute truth? How plain has been our progress since the late announcement of this proposition? Investigation has been taken out of the hands of the ground moles and given as a task to the true and only true thinkers, the men of ardent imagination. These latter theorize. Can you not fancy the shout of scorn with which my words would be received by our progenitors, were it possible for them to be now looking over my shoulder? These men, I say, theorize, and their theories are simply corrected, reduced, systemized, cleared little by little of their dross of inconsistency, until, finally, a perfect consistency stands apparent, which even the most solid and stolid admit, because it is a consistency, to be an absolute and unquestionable truth. April 4th. The new gas is doing wonders, in conjunction with the new improvement with gutta percha. How very safe, commodious, manageable, and in every respect convenient are our modern balloons. Here's an immense one approaching us at a rate of at least 150 miles an hour. It seems to be crowded with people. Perhaps there are 300 or 400 passengers, and yet it soars to an elevation of nearly a mile, looking down upon poor us with sovereign contempt. Still, 100 or even 200 miles an hour is slow travelling after all. Do you remember our flight on the railroad across the Kandawar continent? Kanadar continent, fully 300 miles the hour, that was travelling. Nothing to be seen, though. Nothing to be done but flirt, feast, and dance in their magnificent saloons. Do you remember what nods of sensation was experienced when by chance we caught a glimpse of external objects while the cars were in full of flight? Everything seemed unique in one mass. For my part, I cannot say but that I prefer the travelling by the slow train of 100 miles the hour. Here we were permitted to have glass windows, even to have them open, and something like a distinct view of the country was attainable. Pundit says that the route for the Great Canadore Railway must have been in some measure marked out about 900 years ago. In fact, he goes so far as to assert that the actual traces of a road are still discernible, traces referable to a period quite as remote as that mentioned. The track, it appears, was double only. Ours, you know, has 12 paths, and 3 or 4 new ones are in preparation. The ancient rails are very slight, placed so close together as to be, according to modern notions, quite frivolous, if not dangerous in the extreme. The present width of track, 50 feet, is considered, indeed, scarcely secure enough. For my part, I make no doubt that a track of some sort must have existed in very remote times, as Pundit asserts, for nothing can be clearer to my mind that, at the same period, not less than 7 centuries ago certainly, the northern and southern Canadore continents were united. The Canadians, then, would have been driven by necessity to a great railroad across the continent. April 5th. I am almost devoured by ennui. Pundit is the only conversational person on board, and he, poor soul, can speak of nothing but antiquities. He's been occupied all the day in the attempt to convince me that the ancient Americans governed themselves. Did ever anybody hear of such an absurdity? That they existed in a sort of every man for himself confederacy after the fashion of the prairie dogs that we read of in fable. He says that they started with the queerest idea conceivable, viz., that all men are born free and equal. This is in the very teeth of the laws of gradation so visibly impressed upon all things both in the moral and physical universe. Every man voted, as they called it, that is to say, meddled with public affairs, until at length it was discovered that what is everybody's business is nobody's, and that the Republic, so the absurd thing was called, was without a government at all. It is related, however, that the first circumstance which disturbed very particularly the self-complacency of the philosophers who constructed this republic was the startling discovery that universal suffrage gave opportunity for fraudulent schemes by means of which any desired number of votes might at any time be polled without the possibility of prevention or even detection by any party which should be merely villainous enough not to be ashamed of the fraud. A little reflection upon this discovery sufficed to render the evident consequences, which were that rascality must dominate, in a word, that a republican government could never be anything but a rascally one. While the philosophers, however, were busied in blushing at their stupidity, it is not having foreseen these inevitable evils, and in intent upon the invention of new theories, the matter was put to an abrupt issue by a fellow by the name of Mob, who took everything into his own hands and set up a despotism in comparison with which those of the fabulous Zeros and Hellophagobuluses were respectable and delectable. Zeros and Hellophagobuluses. This Mob, a foreigner by the way, is said to have been the most odious of all men that ever encumbered the earth. He was a giant in stature, insolent, rapacious, filthy, had the gall of a bullock with the heart of a hyena and the brains of a peacock. He died at length by dint of his own energies, which exhausted him. Nevertheless, he had his uses, as everything was, however vile, and taught mankind a lesson which to this day it is in no danger of forgetting, never to run directly contrary to the natural analogies. As for I guess you're picking up that. Yeah, it's what it is. I'm gonna have to take a sip here. Who's been voting again? Somebody's been voting. As for republicanism, no analogy could be found for it upon the face of the earth, unless we accept the case of the prairie dogs, an exception which seems to demonstrate, if anything, that democracy is a very admirable form of government for dogs. April 6th. Last night had a fine view of Alpha Lyrae, whose disk, through our captain's spyglass, subtends an angle of 1/2 a degree, looking very much as our sun does to the naked eye on a misty day. Alpha Lyrae, although so very much larger than our sun, by the by, resembles him closely as regards its spots, its atmosphere, and in many other particulars. It is only within the last century, pundit tells me, that the binary relation existing between these two orbs begin even to be suspected. The evident motion of our system in the heavens was, strange to say, referred to an orbit about a prodigious star in the centre of the galaxy. About this star, or at all events about the centre of gravity common to all globes of the Milky Way, and supposed to be near Alcyone in the Pleiades, every one of these globes was declared to be revolving, our own performing the circuit in a period of 117 million years. We, with our present lights, our vast telescopic improvements and so forth, of course find it difficult to comprehend the ground of an idea such as this. Its first propagator was one Muddler. He was led, we must presume, to this wild hypothesis by mere analogy in the first instance, but this being the case, he should at least adhere to the analogy in its development. A great central orb was, in fact, suggested, so far Muddler was consistent. This central orb, however, dynamically, should have been greater than all of its surrounding orbs taken together. The question might then have been asked, why do we not see it? We, especially, who occupy the mid-region of the cluster, the very locality near which at least must be situated this inconceivable central sun. The astronomer, perhaps at this point, took refuge in the suggestions of non-luminosity, and here analogy was suddenly let fall. But, even admitting the central orb non-luminous, how did he manage to explain its failure to be rendered visible by the incalculable host of glorious suns glaring in all the directions about it? No doubt what he finally maintained was merely a centre of gravity common to all the revolving orbs, but here again analogy must have been let fall. Our system revolves, it is true, about a common centre of gravity, but it does this in connection with, and in consequence of, a material sun whose mass more than counterbalances the rest of the system. The mathematical circle is a curve composed of an infinity of straight lines. But this idea of the circle, this idea of it which in regard to all earthly geometry we consider as merely the mathematical, in contradistinction from the practical idea, is in sober fact the practical conception which alone we have any right to entertain in respect to those titanic circles with which we have to deal, at least in fancy, when we suppose our system, with its fellows, revolving about a point in the centre of the galaxy. Let the most vigorous of human imaginations but attempt to take a single step toward the comprehension of a circuit so unutterable. It would scarcely be paradoxical to say that a flash of lightning itself, travelling forever upon the circumference of this inconceivable circle, would still forever be travelling in a straight line. That the path of our sun along such a circumference, that the direction of our system in such an orbit would, to any human perception, deviate in the slightest degree from a straight line even in 1,000,000 of years, is a proposition not to be entertained. And yet these ancient astronomers were absolutely cajoled, it appears, into believing that a decisive curvature had become apparent during the brief period of their astronomical history, during the mere point, during the utter nothingness of 2,000 or 3,000 years. How incomprehensible that considerations such as this did not at once indicate to them the true state of affairs, that of the binary revolution of our sun and Alpha Lyrae around a common centre of gravity. April 7th. Continued last night our astronomical amusements. had a fine view of the 5 Neptunian asteroids, and watched with much interest the putting up of a huge impost on a couple of lintels in the new temple at the Daphnis in the Moon. It was amusing to think that creatures so diminutive as the Lunarians, and bearing so little resemblance to humanity, yet invented a mechanical ingenuity so much superior to our own. One finds it difficult, too, to conceive the vast masses with which these people handle so easily, to be as light as our own reason tells us they actually are. April 8th. Eureka! Pundit is in his glory. A balloon from Canada spoke to us today and threw on board several late papers. They contain some exceedingly curious information relative to the Canadian or other American antiquities. I presume that labourers have for some months been employed in preparing the ground for a new fountain at Paradise, the Emperor's principal pleasure garden. Paradise, it appears, has been, literally speaking, an island time out of mind. That is to say, its northern boundary was always, as far back as any record extends, a rivulet, or rather a very narrow arm of the sea. This arm was gradually widened until it attained its present breadth, a mile. The whole length of the island is 9 miles, the breadth varies materially. The entire area, so pundit says, was, about 800 years ago, densely packed with houses, some of them 20 stories high. Land, for some most accountable reason, was being considered as especially precious just in this vicinity. The disastrous earthquake, however, of the year 2050 so totally uprooted and overwhelmed the town, for it was almost too large to be called a village, that the most indefatigable of our antiquarians have never yet been able to obtain from the site any sufficient data, in the shape of coins, medals, or inscription, wherewith to build up even the ghost of a theory concerning the manners, customs, etc., etc., of the aboriginal inhabitants. Nearly all that we have hitherto known of them is that they were the portion of the Knickerbocker tribe of savages infesting the continent at its first discovery of Recorder Riker, a knight of the Golden Fleece. They were by no means uncivilized, however, but cultivated various arts and even sciences after a fashion of our own. It is related of them that they were quite acute in many respects, but were oddly afflicted with a monomania for building what in the ancient American was denominated churches, a kind of pagoda instituted for the worship of 2 idols that went by the names of wealth and fashion. In the end, it is said, the island became 9/10 of it, church. The women, too, it appears, were oddly deformed by a natural protuberance of the region just below the small of the back, although most unaccountably this deformity was looked upon altogether in the light of beauty. 1 or 2 pictures of those singular women have in fact been miraculously preserved. They look very odd, very something between a turkey cock and a dromedary. Well, these few details are nearly all that have descended to us respecting the ancient Knickerbockers. It seems, however, that while digging in the centre of the Emperor's Gardens, which covers the whole island, some of the workmen unearthed a cubical and evidently chiselled block of granite, weighing several hundred pounds. It was in good preservation, having received apparently little injury from the convulsion with which it entombed it. One of its surfaces was a marble slab. Only think of it, an inscription, a legible inscription. Pundit is in his ecstasies. Upon detaching the slab, a cavity appeared, containing a leaden box filled with various coins, long scroll of names, several documents which appeared to resemble newspapers, with other matters of intense interest to the antiquarian. There can be no doubt that all these are genuine American relics belonging to the tribe called Knickerbocker. The papers thrown on board our balloon are filled with the facsimiles of the coins, MSS, typography, etc., etc. I copy for your amusement the Knickerbocker inscription on the marble slab. This cornerstone of a monument to the memory of George Washington was laid with the appropriation ceremonies on the 19th day of October 1847, the anniversary of the surrender of Lord Cornwallis to General Washington at Yorktown, AD 1781, under the auspices of the Washington Monument Association of the city of New York. This, as I give it, is a verbatim translation done by Pundit himself, so there can be no mistake about it. From the few words thus preserved, we glean several important items of knowledge, not the least interesting of which is the fact that 1,000 years ago actual monuments had fallen into disuse, as was all very proper, the people contenting themselves, as we do now, with a mere indication of the design to erect a monument at some future time, a cornerstone being cautiously laid by itself, solitary and alone, excuse me for quoting the great American poet Benton, as a guarantee of the magnanimous intention. We ascertain too, very distinctly from this admirable inscription, how as well as the where and the what of the great surrender in question. As to the where, it was Yorktown, wherever that was, and as to the what, it was General Cornwallis, no doubt some wealthy dealer in corn. He was surrendered. The inscription commemorates the surrender of what? Why, of Lord Cornwallis. The only question is, what could the savages wish him surrendered for? But when we remember that these savages were undoubtedly cannibals, we are led to the conclusion that they intended him for sausage. As to the how of the surrender, no language can be more explicit. Lord Cornwallis was surrendered for sausage under the auspices of the Washington Monument Association, no doubt a charitable institution for the depositing of cornerstones. But heaven bless me, what is the matter? I see. The balloon has collapsed, and we shall have a tumble into the sea. I have therefore only time to add that, from a hasty inspection of the facsimiles of the newspapers, etc., etc., I find that the great men in those days among the Americans were one John, a smith, and one Zachary, a tailor. Well, goodbye until I see you again. Whether you ever get this letter or not is a point of little importance, as I write altogether for my own amusement. I shall cork the MS up in a bottle, however, and throw it into the sea. Yours everlastingly, Pundita. My goodness. That was a mouthful. Dead? Maybe dead. I don't know. Bam. Okay. You hung in there, guys. Oh, my word. Thank you, Grey Warden, Ziggy Wiggy Disaster, Drony Manaveri, Alison and Barbarian and Bublina. So, yeah, Joshi, Dummy Joshi. So, okay, guys, I'm pretty tired after that. I have to say that was a bit of a marathon. He doesn't have to get going, Poe, doesn't he? He likes his vocabulary. Goodness me, blood orange. No Valeria, no bosoms apart from the poem. I feel a little cheated too. Better luck next time. 2 bosoms really is a low count. Alright, here we come. Come here, puppy dog. Come here. Come here. Mango. Potsam. Come on. That's for a cat. Mango. There's no food in the bowl. Come here. Click, 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 click. Come here. Come on. He wants to go to his bed. Oh yeah. Come say goodnight to chat. There we go. Oh. All right. Go to your bed. Nope, you're going to wander about. Okay. Sorrel Beans, the bosom count. Edgar Allan Poe likes to talk about bosoms. as in the chest. But of course, the word bosom also can be a bit like boobies. And so we keep them at bosom count. Right now, we're at 22 from these reads. Valeria is the official bosom counter. You can join in. Like death counters for games, exactly. How's Mango's English? Not very good. He speaks food though. Yeah. That's it. This is a very mature book club. Okay. Good for you. You can live in that truth if you want. Love blood oranges. Thank you, Draconi Manaveri. That's half the idea with this. Tequila shots with blood orange. Yeah, does tequila make anybody a bit crazy here? I should do voice acting with that voice. Yeah, it makes some people tequila makes some people a little bit crazy, I hear. Yeah. Don't remember it was tequila. I quite like tequila, but mezcal is better, I guess. Yes, there we go. I probably have to say there aren't many alcohols I haven't tried at this point. Well, there's probably a few. So anyway, chat. Yeah, grappa, yes, of course. Oh yeah, it can do that to you. I've had Veuve Clicquot, yes. It's expanding time. Patron tequila, slice of time to start the night. Oh yeah. Alcohol makes me sleepy. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Probably not good for you. It's not good for anybody. But that's good to know. What can a Frenchman get you they haven't had? Well, I mean, I'll take a bottle of Veuve Clicquot. I'm not saying. I've had Chouchen. I've had cider, both Breton and Normandy. What else? Armagnac, cognac, aquavit, yes. Spice wine, Hippocras. No, I have not had tried that actually. What is Frankenpommery? Chouchen. No, I think, does that mean something else in Czech or Slovak by any chance? What does Chouchen mean, Bublina? Bublina. Bye, Valeria. Have a nice night too. Oh, yes, Long Island iced tea. Is a champagne. Oh, I see. Okay. Ramazzotti. Ouzo, of course. Chouchen is mead. Yes, it is mead. Absolutely. In Breton, yeah, and it's very it's very good. It's very good. Okay, gang. Chouchen means booger. Mm-hmm. A boogalooga. I got a Chouchen in my nose. Picking up. I wouldn't drink that. What, boogers? I wouldn't drink boogers either. A good old cup, I tell you. Baileys with peppermint liqueur. On both counts, no. Mixing them together. Whatever you like, man. Okay, I'm gonna head out, guys. I do not have a PO box yet. I think Logan and I need to think about that, but we're going to work on that. So, is anyone still streaming? Can we go raid someone? Is anybody raidable? Or maybe you guys have had enough, I don't know. I guess not. It is late now, isn't it? Good night, chat. Till the next time. Arrivederci.